Happy Roma Day, everyone, and good morning or good afternoon. Thank you for joining our webinar series entitled The Social, Cultural, and Political Legacy of the 1971 World Roma Congress. My name is Magda Matake, and I'm the director of the Roma program at Harvard University. In the past few years, together with the Romani Studies program at Central European University, an old, strategic, and trustworthy partner, we have created a tradition in celebrating Roma Day together. Our aim has been twofolded. We bring together Roma scholars and activists to discuss prospects and challenges that lie ahead our people. And we also try to create spaces for global solidarity amongst oppressed communities across the world, looking at the Roma, the Dalit, and African American struggles as focal points for inquiry and discussion. This year, at the 50th anniversary of the First World Roma Congress, we are thrilled to add a new partner to our work, the Department of Romani Studies at Södertörn University. So congratulations, Jan and Solvor and the whole team. We have collaborated in the past, and we look forward to continuing working with all of you. Once again, happy Roma Day, everyone, and please also join us tomorrow and the day after for two other webinars that will focus on the milestones and the flaws of the Roma movement, but also on global solidarity against racism, anti-Roma racism, and other systems of oppression. I will now pass the floor to my CEU colleague, Angela Kotze.
Thank you, Magda. Happy Romani Days for everybody. And we are really happy that you joined to this event, and hopefully you will join us tomorrow and after that as well. And 1971, it's a very important political landmark for all of us, not just for our department, but for all the Romani organizations, all the Romani people. And we would like to affirm again our ethnic identity, as well as our common political and social struggles. And it's our moral imperative to remember to these days, as well as to celebrate the dreamers and visionaries whom we have from all over the world. And we are really happy to launch this 3-day event. And I would like to give the floor to Jan Selling, my colleagues from the Södertörn University. Jan, unmute yourself.
Okay. Thank you very much, Angela and Magda, and it is really a privilege doing this with you. My name is Jan Selling. I am head of Department of Romani Studies at Södertörn University, and we are very happy and proud that we can go out and do this with you. And as we are a very new department, this is also our first public activity. So the opening of our department coincides with the 50th anniversary of the first World Romani Congress in London, 1971. This is a very special week for all Roma, but also for all of us who want to celebrate and share experiences around this day and this anniversary. The Department of Romani Studies at Södertörn University is new, but we have been working actually a few years with courses on Romani history, language, contemporary situation, and anti-Gypsyism. But now it's a proper subject, a proper department where you can actually study and have research collaboration. Today in our webinar, you will become an impression of what the 8th of April means to Nordic Roma and meet Nordic Romani publicists and academics, as well as the Romanian expert and advocate for Roma rights, Nicoleta Bitu. I hope you will enjoy the seminar, and feel free to send in questions or comments by using the questions and answers function, which you will find as a Q&A button if you're registered in the Zoom webinar. And I will try to gradually forward and moderate the questions which come in. I will now pass the spotlight to Solvor Lauritzen, who is a senior lecturer of Romani Studies, who will moderate today's webinar. Please welcome Solvor.
Thank you, Jan. A 50 years anniversary is a big day, and we all agree that it's such a shame that we cannot meet and celebrate in our communities. In the Nordic countries, the Roma International Day has been celebrated for years in a variety of places. And some celebrations have been big, others small. They have had different emphases at different places. And today we will start our seminar by watching movies from 2 celebrations. And let me introduce the first one. The small community of Roma in Oslo, in Norway, have celebrated the 8th of April since 2010. In addition to celebrating with food and music, dance and activities for the children, they have also used the day to promote political demands. Fighting for a culture house in Oslo has been particularly important. In 2012, a temporary Roma embassy was opened in Oslo in connection to the Roma International Day. And in 2015, the Norwegian Prime Minister apologized the racist and exclusionary politics that had been led in Norway during and after the Second World War, leading to the extermination of most Norwegian Roma in concentration camps. In connection with this apology, the Roma flag was for the first time flagged outside Oslo City Council. A compensation was also given to the Roma that was used to open a Roma culture and resource center, Romano Kher. The film we will see is made by Romano Kher in Oslo. You will hear Daniel Kwiek tell the story in Romani. The whole script will be made available in English at the Facebook page.
Teaven saste ai bachtale romale. O international romano jes si o 8 april. Gado jes o 8 april si o jes kaisas ame ianoni congreso ando London anno bersh di shinya shela taftavar deshtayek. Atunchi ando di shinya shela taftavar deshtayek kerde amari romani flaga. Ayamari national Gili Sarsakoyeka Janella Gelem. Amare Norvegiska Rom Sasle Ekfesta Ayekidimos o Romano Jes Ianoni data ando 2013. Pala Amare Romenge Dumesas o Rom Tiltake. Gudosas Ekskola e Romenge. Gado oficial Kidimos Sas ai Pala Gudo pi historiako muzeo mano ushlo ai sasiek bari festa romani. Kotesas butraio romano, vigilianza, vi romanecha benenza, de atunchara, sako 8 april kerdam gade ando Oslo ando Norvego. Atunci kerdilas vimai dendrag, tavel vile romenge, bebevonge, o 8 april sas vibut andigela le barrera enza. Soste que mangenas le rom pengejutimos kata otem o Norvego te shai avelle yek Romano Kher. Atunci puterde pe scurto zeito jeka busholas Romano ambasado. Von puterdeles obishtapansto marzo jikai o 8 april andoberj 2022. Gadosas jek te sikavaski kamas ek Romano Kher legajenge. Andoberj 2025 sas ojes kai ci avla shora bisterdo che i ministerkinia le temeski i Erna Solberg inkerdas vorbimos o 8 april le romenge ai manglas peske erto katar le rom sonakle ando marimos che but norvegano amule andokano de pala o norvego che bishadat le avri anda pescotem o norvego but rom lishinde katarotem yeketzavo erto Sanda Godoberg Petemisko Kher ando Norvego vas de opre e Romani flaga ai pendelegaje que kerenga do Sakoberg. O erto ka manglepenge katar e Rom otem todas otem yek strafo pepeste te den le romen yek Romano Kher que le Rom mangle yek Romano Kher ai gade dineles amenge. O Romano Kher site la ovas kataro chirkens bi mishum gado puterdele romenge ando 2018. Sana godo penav samare romenge tavel bachtalo tumaro Romano jes o 8 april taven sosteta bachtale.
Taven sosteta bachtale romal pagado Romano jes I pachif tumenge.
Thank you, Daniel Kwiek, Rambo Shalom, Inge Sigfridsson, Balder Haswal, and the others at Romano Kher for your contribution. We will now move from Oslo in Norway to Norrköping in Sweden. Here, the large Arli community has organized large celebrations, which has combined educational activities for children aimed at building a positive Roma identity with activities such as music, dance, and football tournaments. The film is produced by Šerifi and Seferim Murina. It is in Romanian English, so I will let it speak for itself.
Bachtalor Romano dive, Magas Bachtalor Romano dive samare Romije.
Cu celo sveto a normalno hemsa e amalenje akate suitane avdia mencar.
Bachtalor Romano dive.
A specijalno seljame bičalađi ko amaro amal docent profesor o Jan.
Jan Selim pozabud baro lese amendar nekosa sto kai cergiae qua inițiativa kai testimoni pe qua video avdie I kai shai amen ando Norrköpings romer
ili ando
Arli center te podirina qua mencar sairo mie su dikena mena kate ili sakula soneroma
Ajar amen večera se fo romane ama tekst me misinava
kajar kola kate tele dera medio tekst
Ajar
kai razumine na me svačera isto kola vera
Avdije tano specijalno dive?
Avdije bud specijalno dive, avdije tano znači pinda berš, kaj slaveni per Romano dive.
Am zalo da se fume misionava pa na po specijalnoj si, specijalno situacija su na šti carine tiče damen je kupa en te pa večera tova dive carniđane na sose na valjante večera ama amen večera iktikno video kaj kad iken sarine tu men koitano osefo emolese amala em koiume em amare amala sar sucerjam gia kana se pošajte večere sar mem tu poznaj saljam
odvajtano samo jek te pena jek patriotizam kaj amen jek Đaku isto druma, kaj vodina ista pitanje, kaj manga uopšte amare Romije te čera so pošukarili, te te sikavalen di so, ti sikaven amen ilamen. Achijali so.
Ama isto jam familia. Tu hari poučo jan mandar, ama di čola da jam familia. Di ke nari pošukar.
Este familia, mama, verume na jayame su jam ke familia, dok na lam pa kala bučate čerag sa romska pita ili romencar achijal.
Amen na kam buču je momenti a zajedno i odolese ove na mencar em dike na kala minuti a suave na kanal.
Am de ceva cava te družiname na Roma, to pozdravljame. Te delinakava 8 april dobro gira hari pora nama najvrska. Znam te delinale košukar način, te družiname dik mašala ko sam manušale. Pa le dosta času na džanare da. Ama džija kana džil buš šukare, pa inšala kad džil kraj.
Shuji, embutudi. Shuji, tu se yansamani. Shuji, embutudi. Shuji, tu se yansamani.
A qua dve magamente vas dali u prej, ама te sastavinama re romenso. So poviše това заедно, те мангамен, те дружинамен, това сложна, това ек. Това мек бари слога машкарамен де Рома.
Ме сар Ром od dva dve mange bu značajno. So skoro dva angleder saran dušo berš. Ba kirgape de kameno Roma postojna, mamen kirgape Mariana Veskela. I priznanjamen sa Roma ko celo sunal. Odoleske akava dve trebala sa Roma i odoleske da divesije akate odole diveske.
Šukaro se ti nama ki dikava sa Romen ki kupa. I žilonava sa rijeđu to en najbare ko svetu.
Isto mangate vakirav šukir so postojne na terne čave školu ime učime kola so kedena kerena savke manifestacije kola so te kedene romen kojek tam. Em te vakiren lenge kola itale kota ravena soitale em kozom značajno lengoro romanoana. O romanoana aftalo budbaro.
Prvo mangavate bakta kerav samare romenge maro tradicionalno dive baktalo oftoto april sarinenge akava dive itano amenge gudbaro dive koto dole amensi kavaya o Roma kajsiem sosiem kotarsiem em kotaravaya mate bistra kava dive trate slavinale kojek najbaron nivo mesa Rom sium butradosno kodova dive so siman šansa mate si kavav deka sium Rom hemodolea sium gudbaro gordo supramande.
Hamarí grupa postojenia ke Trimreš. Amaro fil ečelibaya tanotena bistra mari Romani tradiția amaro čeliba.
Amina lama kaset motfa mari Romani tradiția, to družina mari palen. A ujedno su družiname.
Ujedno mangavati čerave Romini kohajri oksotoa.
välkomna alla till den här romska dagen.
Amen sama čikjerata ropralo oseo dedicadale o Maksimietale gotovo. Hem kodovasa pokaninae kako je ramko, koto kako ramko kagilavoli himna Dželem Dželem koplo stili, a ko kagilavo pesi himna mari Romani Dželem Dželem, biza molinaja sarinen amare goston te šaj tušten kopre, sebe pjodetali jekutni amari Romani himna Dželem Dželem. Oven saste.
Ett stort grattis, ett stort ovansaste och en riktigt trevlig fest ikväll. Tack ska ni ha alla. Ovansaste.
Abbiamo satane kontarte počina sau comune e comunache nagramnale ale sau partije sobičane satane vladeće ki vlada ale manuša šveđanja, ale Roma, ale gađe, ale razna manuša. Ale mošando mera organizacije, ale aktivistija razna, ale ari se ta ne posgenja čave, čikondi čame za podrška kakava.
Pašale gilame, čavale, šuče gilja Romane, erat magane. Dile puta mutarelasa,
Mai cilo samo te čemu dinavtut, hem te penavče, ovsasto molinavatumen, aplauz, akaleća vese.
Ome sastavim tu men.
Bogomangi pe sloga o šukaripa, o hajba, piba, čelipa, radost, vesele.
cos'è amire asa, bene amange asa, valoro e beasa, ai bealo. Tu yene goro amaro, tu yene goro amaro. Mangaravatu dine vasa, te tablo me. Jangyar kya meri me sosinne kamera temole masine me kapai rova jangyar kya meri me sosinne kamera temole masine me kapai.
Hållit på mycket som forskare, som lärare, som vän till romer i många år. Men jag hade ingen aning om att det fanns så många romer överhuvudtaget i Norrköping. Och att man kunde ha ett sånt här fantastiskt arrangemang. Och det här är en annan sorts fest än jag har varit på tidigare hos romer. Det är en annan musik, annan dans, annan stämning. Väldigt bra organiserat också. Det är skillnad mellan romerna i många olika grupper. Det syns och det hörs hur man pratar, hur man klär sig, hur man festar. Ibland vad man har för inställning också.
Ove sa ste sarine su diklenamen su elementar kokala video su diklen.
Ne misinala super hine, ama na dinamen su aver berška slavina Romano dive panako pošužo ambienti. Adolese dikamen aver berš.
Pozdrav.
Perhaps you noticed the posters in Swedish during one of the interviews. This was part of an exhibition about Roma history, politics, and identity that was present in the location for the celebration. And one of the posters was dedicated to explaining why the term Roma should be used rather than labels invented by majority society, a legacy from the first World Romani Congress. Thank you, Šerifi and Murina, for the production of this movie. And we now have with us two Swedish Roma publicists to discuss the legacy of the 8th of April in the Nordic countries, Britt-Inger Lundqvist and Fred Taikon. Hi.
Hey.
So I will present you a bit first. Britt-Inger Lundqvist is an ethnologist with long experience from work with young people. She is from the Resande community and is leader of the association RUM. She is also the editor of the online Roma journal Bitu, which is the Romani magazine with the largest outreach in the Nordic countries. In the period 2014 to 17, she also published the street magazine Dik Manush, which was sold by EU migrants as an alternative to begging. She lives in Skellefteå in the north of Sweden. Welcome, Britt-Inger. And Fred Taikon is the chairman and founder of the cultural organization Romani Studies and editor of its journal, which was published until 2019. Fred Taikon has for many years been one of the main organizers of the 8th of April in Sweden. He has been especially important for initiating Roma Holocaust remembrance in public Swedish discourse. Through the publishing house of Romani Studies, Fred has also contributed to the publishing of Romani literature in Sweden. We are very happy that the two of you are with us today. I will first give the word to the two of you before we give the opportunity to the audience to ask you questions. So this goes to the audience that please write in the Q&A. But Britt-Inger, I will give the floor to you first, please.
Oh.
Now we can hear you.
Now, you can hear me now? Yeah, thank you.
First, I would say thank you for being invited. The 8th of April is a big day for all Roma people. For the traveler, this day has grown. And we are now celebrating it. And I'm so happy when I go out on Facebook and I see all people who celebrates the 8th of April among the Roma people, because this day is when we meet together as one, united, and celebrates our roots, which are the same. Yeah.
Thank you, Britt-Inger. And Fred, would you like to say something? And I also heard that you will show us some photos from other celebrations in Sweden.
Yes, thank you very much for the chance to explain what we have done here in Sweden since a long time ago. For example, we start to celebrate this day the first time 2002, and after that we was celebrating every year in different way and also in different cities. So it is we have a long tradition. Not so very long as 50 years, but anyway, nearly 20 years we have been celebrating every year. And I don't know if we can show you some pictures. I would like to show a picture from the Romani Cultural Center in Malmö. And that was the very first day, the first year when the Roma started and gathering together in a part of Sweden with the name of Skåne. It's a region, and the Roma organization in Malmö, there was gathering the Roma in the province, and they made this kind of celebration. And this celebration is not only to throw flowers in the water, because it's a special ceremony. It was the water ceremony, and they are each year. Usually, it used to be a theme for each year. So this is the river ceremony, and the year of this is from 2003. The year after, we start to celebrate this day even in Stockholm. So we was celebrating it in the City Hall of Stockholm, and also we was writing the flag outside of the City Hall in Stockholm. And this is Lars Dimitri, vice chairman of Roma Cultural Center. In that time, I was the chairman of Cultural Center in Stockholm. And then what are we doing on this time when we are making celebration? We are using the time to speak with political persons, and we are inviting them. And also there are some dance, and we can show a picture of that. And there are young girls and boys who are dancing. And of course, we are also giving some food. Maybe we can see the picture number 5. And Jan, can you please show the picture number 5? Anyway, but we are using the day to have political debates and panels, and we are doing it because we would like to know what the political people are doing to improve a better situation for the Roma in Sweden. And why are we doing this? It's also because of the Roma never had the chance to have the freedom of speech And now the 8th of April is one of the days when we can have the freedom of speak to everyone. Usually when we are opening those days, we usually have someone from the government or someone from the commune who is opening and celebrating together. So now I will leave the floor here and give the chance to answer some questions if there are some questions to do this. But anyway, we are very happy, the Roma in Sweden and especially in Stockholm, we are very happy to highlighting the International Roma Day, and we are very sorry and it's very sad that we can't do it as we used to do, because we are used to ensembling at least 250 to 300 Roma person together, but now this year and the last year we haven't any chance to ensemble people to have the same celebration and so on. And I will say, as Šerifi said, let's look forward and see what we can do the next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fred. I will start by asking you a question, Britt-Inger, because you were saying that for the resande community, this day has grown.
Yes.
And I was wondering, as a resande traveler yourself, but also as a publicist, if you could elaborate a bit on this development.
Yeah, of course. For 50 years ago, I can talk about me. When I started among the Roma community, the travelers were not especially into celebrating this day, and didn't feel that they were a part of it. And those 25 years that I have been in this, I can say today is whole different, because now the traveler take part in it. They try to get into the Roma group in another way. Travelers has always been hiding in Sweden, and still do. I live in the northern part of Sweden, and there I have a lot of family here, relatives, but they never show. So it has grown, and today many travelers is with and celebrate the 8th of April, which is new for us. And it's good, because that is, I think the 8th of April is the day when it's a peace day, because it's the day when it doesn't matter who you are. Who you live with, if you live with Gadget, if you live with Sami people, if you live with someone of the same sex, if you live in a house, apartment, in a caravan, we are all the same. We have the same goal. We celebrate our roots, and that's the same. We have the same roots, even if our history is not the same. It's different. So we have the roots that it's same, and everyone needs to have their own history, because we need to have that for our identity. And I think the 8th of April is that day that we celebrate not only the Roma people, but even the human rights, because we are the same on that day. And I think many people, many traveler has been thinking like that and getting a part of it.
Thank you. And I think it connects very well with where Fred was ending, actually, where you were saying that it's a day where you really have the freedom of speech, and where you can make the voice be heard very strongly. Fred, we have a question from Facebook, specifically related to the water ceremony. This person is asking if there is a story behind the water ceremony, and in what way, if any, the theme is connected to Roma history. I don't know if you would like to elaborate a bit on that.
I don't really remember the first year, but in India, they start to put flowers in some rivers who is going out in the ocean. It's a symbolic way to join all the Roma in all the world, because all rivers is flowing out in oceans, and in oceans they are ensembling all the Roma together. It's not only the water ceremony, it's also a candle light ceremony. So as you saw the picture when we was in the city hall, this year was the theme of candlelight ceremony. Means that it's so special that we can, how should I say, light a candle at the very same day for the same purpose, to highlight the Roma issue and to highlight the Roma for all other who don't know who we are. So I mean, it's in Europe, it's nearly between 10 and 15 million Roma, and they are lighting up a light to join together. And another year, it was another theme, to plant a tree. So the Roma start to plant a tree the very same day as 8th of April. And that means that the roots of the tree, it's the Roma who is growing, and the tree is joining together as a symbol that the tree over the earth is ensembling the Roma. So it's a very, but I'm sorry to say now that this theme fell off a little bit. So I haven't heard that it is a new theme. Means that it's possible, depends where you are by yourself. For example, our city hall in Stockholm is next to the water, so we also did the candle ceremony and also the flower water ceremony. So it's a tradition. Is that okay?
Thank you. Yes, that's
Maybe too long
that was very
explanation,
interesting to hear, and I think it's beautiful that it highlights the same thing as Britt-Inger said, that it's actually about being the same roots and being connected as stronger together. We have another question that came in, and it sounds like this: which is most important on 8th of April? Celebrating culture and proud to be Roma on the one hand, and political struggle on the other hand? And secondly, how important is it to show outsiders, and how much is it for the community? So it's this culture, politics, community, outsiders.
I mean, it was lots of questions in one. But of course, for me, also, the thing is that when we are doing the 8th of April, we are starting at 1 o'clock in the day. Maybe if we have a school quite near where we are, then we are inviting the school classes to inform them who are the Roma. Do you happen to know that we are one of the national minorities in Sweden? That is very important. The other thing is that by 1 or 3 o'clock, we used to open the gates and that people is coming in. We are drinking coffee. We are say hello to each other, and our program start by 3 o'clock. And what are we doing by 3 o'clock? We have invited political persons to let them know that what we want to do, and we want to know what they want to do for the Roma in Sweden. And then after, we are starting with the cultural program by 5 o'clock. Then we start the fest and the party. It belongs with some music, dancing, singing, poetry, and also this is the 6th year after each other. We are giving out. I don't know how to say, but we are giving a prize to person who has been worked for the Roma issue in a way. And we used to look for one woman and one man, and we are giving out this honor, the prize of honor of the work they have done during many years. And it's now we couldn't do it for 2 years now, so we hope to do it next year again. So it is even political information for the school classes and also the cultural thing. Maybe not so much to show who we are, because we are a national minority and our public non-Roma, which are at least 25% of all invited, they know us. They know that we are now Swedish citizens and many years ago. Or what do you say, Britt-Inger?
Yeah, but I think the situation of the Roma people in Sweden has improved in general, but there are still a lot to do when it comes to include the Roma people in many levels of the society and political arenas. And that's why the 8th of April is so important, because this day we show us, here we are, and we make a message, and we are on internet, we are everywhere. And I think the paper, that's one thing why we started DICO. We wanted a paper who can share one article for to be in the debate, to make sense, to show off, to people can read it. I think it's very important that we are visible, because there are a lot of racism around, and people think and they know, but they don't know. So the more we show us, the more we will be accepted. So I think it's important that we do everything we can to be recognized, and that we are proud to be the people we are.
And I would add a little bit more to Britt-Inger also, that our Swedish government, they have a special program for the Roma. They have a strategy for 20 years, and this strategy means that the Roma who is born 2032 is going to have the same chance as they should be equal as everybody else in Sweden. There won't be any problem anymore. But I don't think our government reached that goal because it's already been passing, I think, Britt-Inger, it's 8 years now. So we are on the 8 years, and it hasn't been so much. The government are highlighting the Roma issue. They have a meeting. The government are also meeting together with the Roma, and they are asking them, what shall we do, and so on. But still, I can't see anything about this, because the thing is that we were speaking about Dikko, and we had a paper with name of Romani Glinda for 22 years. And we was running it for 22 years, but we had to take it down, to take it away, because there was, how should I say, they didn't support it us with money. So there was making our money as we got from the government with 50,000 less. It means 5,000 euro each for that year. Less means that a paper who already was going nearly bankrupt every year, now there was putting it down with 50 Swedish thousand crowns, and that was the nail in the coffin that we have to finish a 22 years work. And each year of 8th of April, we was highlighting the nearly all the arrangement in whole Sweden. It was not only Malmö, Helsingborg, or Stockholm. It was from different kind of cities and different Roma groups with lots of pictures, and because we asked for the people who was making the arranging the International Day to send us the articles and the pictures, and we will highlight them in our paper. That means that this paper was not only for the Roma, it was also for the government and other institutions who had the chance to make the prenumeration for the paper. And this was a paper as we was giving out 6 times a year. Yeah, 6 issues every year. And the Roma got the paper for free. So we didn't got any money from the prenumerants or something, only for the governmental prenumerants. So good luck if you still can run Dikko. Because it's very important. So now we don't have any other Roma magazine who can give the news about the Roma. So
that's important what you're saying now, because we have to go together. We have to connect to each other and tell everyone what we need, what we want to do. I mean, but your magazine was put down, which was terrible. Our magazine, we got 50,000 kronor for a year. You can't live with that. So we are depending on people who send articles to us for free. And that's not okay. We don't have to put out our hand and beg for money. It's not okay. It should be like they should promote us for what we're doing, for our work, because we're doing it for the government, and we are doing what they put down on papers and tell us what to do, and we do it. So that's wrong. So I think that we as Roma people have to go together and start not beg or be a victim. We have to take what we want and tell them what we are going to have this, and we have to go together. Otherwise, we come nowhere.
No. It's also that I would say just a very short it's now we are speaking about ourselves, but I am so jealous on other Eastern Europe countries who already has support for their magazine and newspaper. I mean, they was very early, they had the radio and television stations, and we didn't have it in Sweden. So sorry, I took your words.
That's okay. I was just conscious of time, and we have 2 more questions that I at least want to make sure that you can answer. And the first one is about collaboration between the Roma and other national minorities. And I think, Britt-Inger, perhaps you would like to start from the perspective from the north with the indigenous Sami and Tornedal and Swedish Finnish.
We have in the northern of Sweden. I have friends who are Sami people, and we have found out that we have a history that is very much alike. It's a lot of similarities in our history, and when we started to talk about this, we got so surprised because we are as a minority, we know our own history, and we are together and we talk about that, but we don't look around us. So when we started to talk about this, we saw that there is a lot of things that are alike. And I talked about the traveler, and we started to talk about that we should go together, because as Roma needs to stand up for themselves, it's the same for the national minorities. And if we can take those questions that we have, that is the lie, is like for each other, then we can go together, and together we have a bigger voice, a stronger voice than we have when we are small. So we have started to talk about this, and I like to collaborate with people because I can see the benefit in it for everyone. If we, among the Roma people, collaborate, then it's a benefit. But if we collaborate even bigger and open our views and look around us, so is there so many points in collaboration between the minorities. So I hope we can get together something about this.
I have to say that your discussion has provoked a lot of questions. We have them running in, but we have unfortunately run out of time, so we won't have time to address them all. So I would actually like you now to just round up and give a short comment each before we will have to move on in the program. But yeah, so I don't know, Fred, would you like to say something first, and then?
Yes, I would like also to say that I was together with the government when there was starting to see and look over for the national minorities in Sweden, and that is it started for 24 years ago. So now in Sweden at the year 2000, we got national minorities together with other minorities here in Sweden. It was the Jewish, the Swedish Finnish, the Tornedalingar, and the Sami and the Roma together. That means that in the very first 5 years, nothing happens. It was a special legislation about national minorities, but nothing was happened. And then we was asking ourselves, this national minorities right, was it only on paper or what was it? So we start, the Romani Glinda start to make interviews and also now since 7 years back, we are highlighting the national minorities in a big festival with name of Five Folk Festival, and we are doing it now for 7 years after each other. And we have 3 big festival meetings every year. And we are ensembling, and we in our board for Five Folk Festival is the 5 national minorities ensemble, and we are doing the program together. You can see it on our homepage. And
thank you. And that sounds really. I really hope that we will be able to meet soon, so that you can continue having these events live, because it sounds very important.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Britt-Inger, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I would be short. I think it's important that all Roma groups know the difference between the group and that we know what brings us together. Because we have our history, and it's so important that we know who we are and what group we come from and our roots and what brings us together for our identity. And that's what the 8th of April is for me. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. It was really a pleasure listening to you both, and we have had really a lot of questions coming in about knowledge production and collaboration between different groups and political struggles in the Nordic countries and research. And there are so much that we haven't had time to address. I apologize to those who had asked the questions as well. And it only shows that we will have to do this together again so that we can address those questions. But thank you so much, both of you. And happy 8th of April.
Thank you.
We will now soon move to our next panel. But before we do that, we will watch a short movie with Soraya Post. Soraya was going to be with us today, but unfortunately she had to cancel her participation. She sends her wishes to everyone. Soraya Post is a Swedish Roma politician, activist and educator. And she was a member of the European Parliament for the Feminist Party in 2014 to 19. As the first Swedish Roma politician at higher level, she made a huge impact. She was the initiator of the EU Roma Week, a yearly event that takes place in Brussels in connection to the International Roma Day. In 2017, she also served as a rapporteur on the issue of fighting anti-Gypsyism. And the short video that we will see now was produced when Soraya Post was at the starting line of this work.
The main focus on this report, which is the first of its kind, is about the widespread anti-Gypsyism. What I want to present is the root cause of the exclusion and why the stigmatization of the Roma. The situation is really indecent in almost all of the member states. Like in Sweden, for example, which is a very rich and developed country, 80% of the Roma are unemployed. We never recognized anti-Gypsyism. It's individual level and institutional level. It's structural. And it is very old. I mean, since the Roma came to Europe, like 800 years ago. Europe has to recognize their failure. Member state has to recognize their failures. Me, myself, I'm also Roma, and I know that I was born condemned because there are so many prejudices and so much against me because of my ethnicity. Now it is about time to take full responsibility also for these people. Nobody wants to be poor. Nobody wants to live like cattle. Nobody wants not to send their children to school. Nobody wants to live without electricity. Nobody wants to live without water. If we are going to be a proud union, we cannot be that as long as we have like 10, 12 million people living totally excluded from everything.
Hearing Soraya Post's powerful message reminds us that the 8th of April is not only a day for celebration, but also a day to gather strength to continue the fight against the ugly forces of anti-Gypsyism. And bearing that in mind, we will now welcome our two next panelists. They have in common that they are both Roma academics from the Nordic countries. Marko and Sunita, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will present you first. Marko Stenroos finished his PhD last year. Congratulations. In social and cultural anthropology at the University of Helsinki in Finland. In his study, he examined how European Roma strategies travel to Finland and how policies on Roma are implemented at the national level. Marko is also the board member of Minority Rights Group Finland, and he has been involved with Roma work and Roma studies for more than 10 years. Marko has also worked for the Roma History Project that produced the first book on Finnish history from the Roma perspective. Welcome. And Sunita Memetovic is a graduate from the legal program at Uppsala University and holds a master's degree in law. She is a member of the Swedish Bar Association and became the first attorney of Roma descent in Sweden in the field of criminal asylum and family law. She graduated from the Roma Graduate Preparation Program at the Central European University last year and is currently enrolled in an LLM as an LLM student at the Department of Legal Studies in Human Rights at the CEU. Her research topic is begging, international law, and Roma. And for the last 5 years, she has published several research papers and articles on the begging issue. At the moment, she is also involved in a hate speech case against a former leader of the right-wing populist party in Sweden. Welcome, Sunita. I will give the word to Marko first and then to Sunita. And while you're talking, I encourage participants and audience to write questions in the Q&A. So we have them ready for you afterwards. But first I give the word to you, Marko.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And happy Roma Day from Finland also. As we are celebrating today the 50 years of international Roma activism, I thought I would say a few words about activism from the Nordic and particularly from Finland point of view. The first Roma association in Finland was established already during the 1950s called Romani. This association was not that successful to combat assimilation politics of the time. Later on, the researchers evaluated that the main reasons why Romani failed in improving Roma positions in the Finnish society was because they did not have enough political power nor the political will to support them. And then we go in time, further in time. At the time of the first Romani Congress, in the beginning of 1970s, a new Roma association was established. This association had what Romani was lacking. So it had a political power behind it, and it had the political will to improve the situation of Roma in Finland at that time. The success for the second Roma association came through collaboration between Roma activists and governmental officials. In a bigger picture, this era was actually the time of civil rights movements globally. So the timing was good for the second Roma association. After the turn of the 1970s, Finnish Roma attained the full step in the agenda making of the Roma politics that they used to be the target of before. So before they didn't have any words or voice to be heard about the policies that considered them. And if we think about the first Roma Congress, the image of the Finnish Roma activism and the global trends in civil rights movement, that indicates that the time was favorable for the positive change at that time. And that time was also a period when the strict assimilation politics in Finland ended. So that was really big achievement for the Romani movement at the time. The Nordic countries, however, have been praised for the structural development of Roma politics. And this is especially on the European level. If we compare to many countries in Europe, the Nordic countries can be proud of themselves in terms of the getting Romani issues into governmental structures. However, the development of Roma participation cannot stop to the governmental structures, nor to the policy documents that tend to misrecognize the social realities of everyday life that Roma are experiencing. The challenges of the current Roma participation lays on how to transfer the ideas of policy documents to the real life at the community level. Within that challenge, it would be worthwhile to look at the processes of 1970s when the concrete actions and joint attention between Roma and both national and local authorities were in effect. The international Roma activists, therefore, I think today should also learn something from the time of the 1970s when Roma was active in promoting Roma issues. And in the bigger picture, we have to remember that in the 1970s, the political climate was good for the human rights. But at the moment, the political climate is not good for the human rights. So we have to emphasize Roma rights more strongly. And like it was said in the last panel, we have to demand the rights and make our voice to be heard. So I think that was my opening words for the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Marko. I will just give the words straight away to Sunita before we continue with questions and conversation.
Thank you, Marko, for your presentation, and a happy 8th of April to all of you. As a lawyer, I always think that the law should reflect on how the society is today. And therefore, if the society change, then the law should change as well. Before I talk about today's challenges regarding anti-Gypsyism, let us start looking back. The first Romani Congress in 1971 succeeded, in my opinion, with two things. Building terrain for Roma to become people with the voice. And in some sense, took back their own identity by telling the states and the whole world what their people name is. They became a political, meaningful body called Roma, from Romanes Roma, which means human. And the main importance of that Congress, as I see it, was that the Roma transformed their perception of Roma to the political and recognized group. This is what our people succeeded with earlier, back in the beginning of 1970. So what I will try to do is to highlight some of today's challenges by looking at the struggle we had in the past, and perhaps what we are facing today. And what I'm asking myself is, have the challenges just transformed to something else? And perhaps the core issue here is still anti-Gypsyism. Even though I try to be optimistic about the future, I have to state that a lot of things have done, but it's still a lot of things to do. The two questions I'm addressing in my presentation is, how do we deal with people who use their social media platform to violate Roma? And for this question, just to limit the scope, I'm looking at the question from a national context. From a more international perspective, I will discuss the question if there is a human right to beg. The European Court of Human Rights has rendered a new judgment on the issue in the beginning of this year. And this question is interesting. As you probably already know, a lot of Roma live in poverty in Europe, as Soraya stated in her video. So this judgment is a good example to illustrate how the court handled the issue of poverty and anti-discrimination regarding Roma. Let's start with the first question. One night, just for 2 months ago, I was late in the office working. And I received from several people, most quite young Roma activists, question about something that Bert Karlsson, a quite famous figure in Sweden, he posted on his social media platform. In a video clip, he talked about Roma. And in essence, he was saying that he claims that Roma are criminal and they should take more responsibility for their acts. He also used the G word several times. This post was virtually reached to many people. And obviously this made me very angry. But the story didn't end there. Short time after, a new video was added from him, where he defended himself from criticism he got for using the G word. A defense said very briefly that he didn't understand what the difference between Roma and the G word is. I was not longer just angry, but outrageous and disgusted. And what affected me the most was the young Roma activist who asked me several times, what can we do to stop him? So with my good friend, Jan Selling, who is here today, and with another attorney, we decided to fill a police report on Bert Karlsson for hate crime against Roma. And obviously, in these cases, usually the police is not taking enough time to investigate, which itself is a problem which we should have a seminar about. However, to my big surprise, until today, and it had been 2 months since we filled the police report, the case is under investigation. It's still under investigation. And what I should add in this perspective is, when we filled this police report, media contacted me, and just me, not the other two Gaje, and asked me normal questions about the case. And after that, the most striking thing happened. I was confronted with hate. I was contacted in several ways by people I didn't know. And a lot of them had association with populist political groups here in Sweden. And I'm citating what these people wrote to me, some of them. You gypsy, you will die, or gypsy whore. Still today, we obviously need to fight to be right to recognize and the way we identify ourselves. And that seems that it seems that we have to pay the price for it. The second question, which have been following me as long as I can remember, since I was 10 years old and doing the TV series I was part of and was around Europe. And as a law student, I remember that I was writing papers about it and always ending my paper by saying, it is a shame that the European Court of Human Rights still not has taken a stand on this matter. And then it came, a decision in the beginning of this year, in Lakatos versus Switzerland. And the court stated in paragraph 107, begging constituted a means of survival for her. Being a clearly vulnerable situation, the applicant had the right, inherent in human dignity, to be able to convey her plight and attempt to meet her basic needs by begging. So there is a human right to beg according to the court. This case is about a Roma woman of Romanian nationality who was convicted and fined under the Geneva Criminal Code for begging. The reason why she begged was in order to survive. She had been arrested and kept in prison for several days. And the Geneva law in Switzerland said that begging was not allowed and the act of begging was criminalized. So together with her defender, she brought the case to the European Court of Human Rights. And the court, as I said in the beginning, in the beginning of this year, concluded that there is the right to beg, which derives from the Article 8, which is about family and private life. And the court found that her right had been violated due to the Geneva law. Not only that they gave her a fine, but also by taking her liberty, by putting her in jail in the case of non-payment of the fine, which was exactly what happened to Mrs. Violetta Lakatos. So what can we ask ourselves? What does this case mean in practice? Unfortunately, or it depends how you see it, this case is just a baby step. It's only a baby step, but still a step in the right direction. What it teaches us is that it would be against the convention to have anti-begging laws, which has a sanction which is similar to the Geneva Criminal Code. But that doesn't necessarily mean that if you only restrict anti-begging laws by administrative measures, that they will be against the convention. So put differently, the judgment is not wide reach or restrictive on the anti-begging laws in Europe. And what I think personally is, firstly, I'm not arguing that the right to beg should be an absolute right, like torture. But I wish that the court could be even more restrictive on the anti-begging laws we have in Europe. And secondly, what I'm most disappointed at is that the court did not take the chance to argue if begging is a question of the freedom of expression, according to Article 10, or Article 14, prohibition of discrimination. Looking at Article 14, which is the most relevant for this seminar, the court didn't even bother to evaluate if the anti-begging laws were actually targeting the Roma people. European Roma Rights Center pointed out that many states have adopted anti-begging laws after 2007, the year when Bulgaria and Romania joined the European Union. And I think many of you know that we have a lot of Roma who lives in Romania and Bulgaria. Following the EU enlargement, Roma people, similar to others, have used the right to free movement to seek better live conditions. European Roma Rights Center argued that the court needs to view the laws that criminalize begging from the context of anti-Gypsyism, and most importantly, the Geneva Criminal Act, and see if this is targeting Roma people. However, the court didn't even bother to examine this due to procedure economic reason, since they already found a relation regarding Article 8, they didn't bother to continue. Even though the court took a small step with this judgment, which we should welcome and salute, but it's still much more that could be said from the court. By giving you these two examples, I hope I have succeeded with illustrating some of the struggles we are facing today. Please let me know if you have any questions, and thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you so much, Sunita. We actually already have questions coming in, but before we start addressing them, I would like to give Marko the chance to respond to what Sunita has just said. Unmute.
Can you hear me now? Yes, you raised many important issues like the discrimination and poverty, but what struck me most is that what I said in my speech, that we shouldn't take the human rights as self-granted, that we have to fight for it all the time, and everything depends on the political climate, and so we cannot just we have to find a way how to make sure the continuity of the Roma rights in the future. And I think the law is one of the key factors how we can affect to maintain in the future also our equal rights. So like we have this policy recommendation and this kind of papers, they are basically anyway just the recommendations, but we have to have something more binding than the recommendation that takes care about this kind of discrimination issues and poverty issues. But really interesting speech. Thank you, Sunita.
Marko, the first question actually goes to you, so you can continue, and it's about your opening words, where you stated that the current Roma activism could also learn from the earlier times, especially from the beginning of the 1970s, when the first Roma Congress in London was held. Can you elaborate a bit on that, please?
Yes, during my research, I realized that many issues in policy processes are very abstract and difficult for the ordinary Roma to picture what is actually going on and why certain issues are emphasized emphasized. I like to refer this current Roma politics as abstract plans for abstract people, and I do this in comparison to 1970s Roma activists when they, together with the government, improved Roma housing remarkably in Finland. So at that time, there was a system that was actually called a gypsy loan, and the government paid money for the communities, communes to take care of the better Roma housing, so that the government put the money for the budget to improve Roma housing. That affected a lot. And that was done together with the government authorities and the Roma activists. And what I would like to see today in current political climate is also this kind of concrete action that improve the situation, and so that we are not working on the abstract level, but we go on the deep into concrete issues, that all the Roma people know what is going on in this field. Thank you.
Thank you. And the examples that Sunita giving, I think, are very good examples of not being abstract, but actually concrete in people's lives. So I will give the word to you again, Sunita. And you also started with the first World Romani Congress, and I was wondering if you would like to step back there a bit and say what impact do you think the Congress has had on fighting injustice and of against Roma in today's society?
Thank you, Solvor. As I said during my presentation, I think the first Romani Congress in 1971 succeeded with two mainly things, and one of them was that they took back their own identity by telling the state and also the world that this is our people's name. We are called Roma. So they started the political and recognized the group as the Roma, with the word which means in Romanes human. And this is something that we continue with today. And what is striking for me that still today, so many years after, we still have to fight for that word. And this is why I'm illustrating by giving the example of the police report, which me together with my two colleagues have filled when it comes to this famous actor here in Sweden, Bert Karlsson, because in his speech he's actually using the G word and talking in a very wrongful way about the Roma community. And it's so many years after, and he doesn't even understand the criticism he got. He's not interested in listening that. So even today we have to fight for our identity in so many ways. But I get inspiration for the people who in the past worked for this. For us to be a recognized group, that's where everything started, and that's what we continue fighting with today. For today.
Marko.
Yes, that's a really good point. I think that 1971 was actually the point when they were making not only the identity, but they emphasized the political subject as Roma, and they make the point as a human beings. And this kind of G word, or it is the same thing with N word, it's dehumanizing the people. And this kind of action, what happened earlier, and what actually Romani movement is doing is giving back the human perspective, human condition for the Roma people, and not allowing the dehumanizing of Roma people. Like the people dehumanize the beggars on the street, and that should not be allowed.
Sunita.
But what I can also add to what Marko said, if we compare how it looks today and then, is that you can see that our Roma activist is so much powerful this day, as I see it. when we get together from all around the world and all around Europe, and we try to produce knowledge from ourselves. Roma itself is producing the knowledge in academia, in every field, and this is powering in itself. And I think this Roma activist, we have a lot of things to learn what being behind, but we can also see that we are really good at fighting together. Looking back to one of the cases I'm illustrating, it was the Roma activist, young people in Sweden who wrote to me from several different points of views and said, please, can we do something to stop him? And this is fascinating to see.
Talking about anti-Gypsyism related to that, Marko, since your speciality is policies, how can you say something about anti-Gypsyism, how that is considered at the policy level in Finland? That is your context, and the role of policies in fighting anti-Gypsyism.
Yes, in Finland, anti-Gypsyism actually is not separated as one form of racism in public and political discourse. And this means that Finland applies general anti-racism and anti-discrimination policies that also covers Roma. Do I think personally that if it should address anti-Gypsyism particularly, I think yes, it should do that. The term itself, the anti-Gypsyism, it's not also used by the Roma in Finland. We don't recognize, or we don't know the whole context of this term and what it includes. But however, just recently public discussion about the discrimination of Roma have increased, and more attention has been paid to structural discrimination in the labor market, for example. The earlier Finnish Roma policy on Roma based on the NRIS spoke about overall inclusion of Roma in the Finnish society, but various researchers on Roma implementation indicate that in fact policy measures were mainly targeting Roma and dismissed anti-Gypsyism in practice. I hope that the new Roma strategy guidelines recommended by the European Commission last month will boost a change for this issue and the role of the whole society in Roma inclusion is mainstream, so that it will cover the whole society and the policies are not targeting only Roma.
Thank you. We had another question coming in that actually came when Fred and Britt-Inger were talking, but I will bring it in now, and it's about knowledge production, and it says this brings me to the question of what politicians in Sweden, but we could think in the Nordic context, are doing for the Roma. And the worry that a very small number of Roma in higher education in a country with free education, which indicates structural discrimination. What can we do to change this? And especially to include more Roma in knowledge production about Roma.
I can answer partly from the Finnish perspective. So just recently there have been new curriculum that is trying to make the schools more inclusive for students from different backgrounds. And they have now just recently recognized how actually their school as an institution is othering the minority people, so they are not in the same position as a majority people, and it's now recognized in Finland, and there has been launched a new project to tackle this problem, but I don't know how it will turn out, but at least the problem is recognized at the moment.
This is something that have been recognized by the Sweden as well for some years back now. But the discussion of of make it easier for vulnerable people such as or minorities such as Roma to enter higher education. As I know it, it's not on the agenda for discussion for the moment. And perhaps when I was younger, I was one of those who was against this. But now, after my experience, after my long experience, I kind of understand the importance of this, because we do see that we need more educated Roma people who produce the knowledge by themselves. But also, I want to highlight that I do see development in that area as well, from a lot of Roma young people in Sweden now studying in different fields at the university. So for me, I can see the difference already just looking back in the 5 years, and from a 5 years perspective.
Yes, same in Finland. The education has improved, although in the slow pace, but it has improved. Yes.
And just to also, and I think, I don't know if you agree on me with me, Marko, but that we need to produce our own knowledge by ourselves. I think that's an important element, and this is what we can see around the whole Europe for the moment, and now in the whole world that is coming. We have professors who are doing in different fields who producing the knowledge, which is great. And I think we have to have also a kind of patience, because we do see the difference. We do see the difference, and we should embrace that.
And also, I think that the Romani academics should receive the value actually on their work, what they are doing. There are some scholars who criticize that the educated Roma are distanced from their own communities, but I argue that is not wrong. That's not like that is not happening all the time. At least it's not happening in Finland. And I think the knowledge what the Roma academics are bringing is how do I say? It's more detailed, and it's more from the community perspective than we take the outsiders, totally outsider. So we have to work jointly with the other academics, maturity people, and so on. But the input from the Roma scholars are really important to improve these issues. That's why I did my thesis, PhD thesis.
And we do have a lot of PhD students doing excellent work right now in Europe. Just to name one of them, Simona, which is a part of this, have been a Roma graduate student before, and she's produced knowledge about education in Roma, and have a wonderful thesis, which I recommend to everyone.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll just move on to the next question. It's a bit change of topic, but that came in about law. So I'll give it to you first, Sunita. How stable is the law? Marko talked about that success can be reversed. We have a bad political situation right now with right-wing populism. On the other hand, racism is on the agenda. And then how inspirational is Black Lives Matter for discussions about law improvements? What can we learn from the US? Would you like to say something about that, Sunita?
Oh, wow, that was a lot of questions. I will try to answer some of them. Law is very important in these days. And the most important with law in these days is that we have to find tools to not be able to change the law that easy. I'm talking about constitutional law in states. What we see now with the right populist parties is that they are finding a democratic way to changing law. And this is the most striking for me. So what we need to do as a lawyer, we need to find tools to stop that, hindering that, and not make it that easy for constitutional law to change, because that's the the core in this discussion. And the examples are clear, looking at and countries such as Hungary and Poland, and how they are finding tools to change the law, which is very dangerous. So this is example we have to take in other member states have to look at this and try to find out tools how to stop this these developments. And when it comes to the Black Matter question, I think we as a Roma, I don't know exactly what the question was in that context, but I think with seeing that illustrate also the fight we have as a Roma. And I think what happened with that is that there were a lot of people getting together, fighting together, and building on things. And I think this is what we can learn from that fight, that we also should be, which I want to emphasize again, we are coming there. We just need to have patience. As I said in my speech as well, I am optimistic when it comes to the future, even though I do see some problems when it comes to some issues in Europe today.
Yes, I also, like I said before, I am actually happy about the new policy recommendation from the EU, and it's on the paper, it's really good, but where it fails is the implementation in different countries. And I think that's the point where the law could come into the picture and make it more binding for the member state of the EU to be committed to the policy recommendation that are basically good, but they are not, let me say, to my experience, many of them, the practices are not implemented well to the Roma community or the wider society. So the problem is the implementation of the policy, and that's where the law could come into the picture.
Thank you. Time is running so fast, so we don't have a lot of time left, unfortunately. I would like to give you a chance to sum up and conclude the discussion we've had, and perhaps Sunita, when you do that, if you can also give us a teaser, because you're saying that you have filed a police report against this public Swedish figure. Can you tell us whether you think it will lead to prosecution or not? And then sum up, and then I will give the word to Marko.
Yeah, thank you. And what I can say about that is that I am surprising that the police still investigating a case, but because looking at these kind of cases, unfortunately, and we should have a seminar just discussing that, hate crimes are it's not that it is not that easy for those cases to continue. So looking at this, that means that the police are investigating the case, which is quite surprising for me, and I'm happy for that. But I also want to mark that even if the police close this case, which I hope it will not happen, but if it happened, it's still a statement from our side that this is not okay. And you can see that this famous figure have start getting nervous about this and acting very weird on media and try to defend himself in different way, sometimes using a false statement to defend himself. So even though this not going to continue, the investigation not continue, we cannot make a political discussion about this, or a discussion to people in Sweden, and that's the most important with this case. As I see it, and I'm continuing looking at the Lakatos versus Switzerland case, and is my research topic for my thesis for the human rights program as well. So I'm following that, and the most important for me in that matter is that I kind of hope that the court in the European Court of Human Rights in the near future going to look at this question and take one additional step and looking at it from an Article 14 question when it comes to discrimination and poverty about Roma. So that's my hope, and that's what I'm continue working for. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to say a few words about advocacy. Like I said earlier, I think the participation of Roma is really important in policy making, and especially in the agenda making and decision making. And one of the person I interviewed earlier said that in the governmental structures, we are actually invited to the door, but we are not let in. And that kind of tells the level of the participation. So we should advocate the participation that guarantees the partnership in the decision making and agenda making. So there is a place for Roma activism as well. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. Yeah, it was really interesting to listen to the discussion, and you were bringing up so many things that I wish we could have time to discuss more in depth, but unfortunately time was running too fast. So, but thank you very much, and we'll hear more from you definitely in the future. So we have come to the end of our program. We have been introduced to celebrations of the 8th of April in the Nordic countries. We have heard Roma activists, academics, publicists from the Nordics share their thoughts on the legacy of the Roma International Day and the way forward. And now we will welcome Dr. Nicoleta Bitu, the President of the Democratic Federation of Roma from Romania and member of the board of the European Roma Institutes for Arts and Culture. Welcome, Nicoleta. Dr. Nicoleta Bitu has been active in the field of human and women's rights for 30 years. She has worked for Romani Christ, the Open Society Foundation, the Council of Europe, the European Commission, and the Romano Boutique. Her work has provoked the Romani and feminist movements to think and act based on the universality of human rights when it comes to Romani women. And we invite you, Nicoleta, to comment on what you have seen and heard today from your perspective as a Romanian Roma academic, activist, and feminist. So the floor is yours. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. Just a small rectification. I'm no longer president of the Federation or part of the European Roma Institute Art and Culture Board. So I'm just an activist. I went back to my initial role. First, I would like to say Bahtalo Romano Dive Saurenge, and for me, this day it's always wonder and a time for reflection and also of appreciation of the people who have organized in 71 without projects, resources, money, political power, or any other resources except their will and determination and belief that Roma should become a political subject. I have to admit that, as Marko said, the political context in which the Congress happened, it was favorable for doing that. But nevertheless, the determination and resilience of the organizers of the First World Roma Congress, it's to be admired even today and to be followed. They still remain, after 30 years of activism, for me, an example of determination and resilience. So I just have to, take a bow in front of them. And it's also, I've been privileged to personally meet Gratam and Matteo Maximo before Matteo died, and Gratam recently when I moved to London. Also, I had a privilege of traveling across the world, and including Norway, Sweden, and Finland, and meet Roma activists and officials and our non-Roma allies in these countries. And I'm very happy to be here today. I wrote a lot of the conclusions of the discussions today, but one of the reflections I would like to make in connection with the discussions we had, is that 30 years when I started to work, I was very young. The 8th of April was a celebration among a very small, limited club of people across Europe. Only few of us knew about that. And it became in 30 years, which is really amazing to witness that, it became a popular celebration where our people started to celebrate and to know about that this day, which is for me amazing, and is like the capacity to affect other people and to grow in celebrating our political identity and our pride in being Roma. It became an occasion to display our identity in public spaces, not only in private spaces in our families or very small gatherings. So this day marks also the kind of manifesto of occupying public spaces as other nations and peoples across the world they do, and they did during the history. So for me, the celebrations we've seen on the movies and the celebration we all participating in have been manifestos by themselves in occupying these public spaces and becoming known to others, and that we are there and we cannot be ignored. It's also, when I have traveled in Nordic countries and in Western European countries, there's a theme which occurs every time I went there, and this is the debate between the traditional domestic. I'm sorry for the word. I don't find a better word in English. The traditional Roma, which were in the territory of these states, and the newcomers from Central and Eastern European Roma. So again, this day, it's a day where the differences are overcome. Even though sometimes there are discussions between we and you, like among us Roma, and we feel the need sometimes to separate ourselves from others, from other Roma groups, and I never felt this, but anyway, that's a theme which comes in the discussion. Then 8th of April becomes a day where our internal differences are overcome, and we know that we are all Roma. Doesn't matter if we call ourselves in different ways, but this is a day where our rights and dignity and identity should be played out without thinking about our internal differences too much. And beyond this celebration and everything, 8th of April has been always a day of reflection, as I said in the beginning. And I'm really blessed to be at the same table of thread, Sunita, Marko, and our colleague. I'm sorry. I always Britt-Inger. Sorry, Britt-Inger, because I always call you Inger. So, is also to think about where we are today now and what we have done good, or what are the wrongs, or what we can do better, and how we can do better. It's been a lot of discussions about current political context, and there's been highlighting some of the participants highlighted the cut of funds, change of laws, undemocratic processes, not effective policy measures implementation. So we operate in a more unfriendly political context than ever before. 30 years ago, I mean, ever before, after the Second World War. So I don't think that after Second World War ended, we have operated in such a unfriendly political context. There's a rise of extreme right, the white supremacy movement, and extreme right movements. So also we are in a time when the national states reconfigure themselves, not like borders, but reconfigure their roles and their contribution to the international community and their view on international community. So we are not really in a very good in a very good political context, but we never give up, no? So even though the Nordic countries have been the how to say, the champions of the social democracy, for me it was really interesting to see how to even today to see these countries for which the social democracy played a very important role in shaping their societies, their social solidarity, and to see my Roma fellows from these countries which have succeeded to perceive their identity, culture, language. It was for me an amazing thing to see. But on the opposition of this, which is like almost a crash in imagery, if you want, is that in the same time you find a collective mental which have not, I mean, the majority collective mental has been stuck in 18th century, 19th century, where is the Roma are criminals, beggars, thieves, they steal our people, our children, and yeah. So for me, that conflict, which I found it in last time when I visited Stockholm, was kind of it put me very back, because for me, these Nordic countries, in terms of ideology and implementation of political ideology, social democracy was the standard of my thinking, and I was like, this is where we should aspire to. And then I found this clash of allowing to keep the identity, language, and everything, but on the other hand, collective mental, which didn't really change a lot when it comes to Roma. And it shows us that anti-Gypsyism is the most accepted form of racism nowadays. Everybody agrees when it comes to Roma, unfortunately. So, and the most visible anti-Gypsyist way of manifestation is the words, the use of the word Z with G and all the bad names we were given by the others. So unfortunately, there's another. No, and I don't know if it's sad, of course, but in a way, we should say these things in order to be able to act and to improve the situation our people live. Another thing I wanted, and it's during the discussion, it came very often in the discussion, was the connection with our people, and how do we do and how we act in order that our activities, the policies and laws we contribute to, are affecting the daily life of our people. And this is very difficult, because we are not yet there. And I think we are here at the table sitting, people with privileges and people with a lot of resources, mental, intellectual, maybe material, better than other Roma. And we have a responsibility towards other Roma to make their lives better than it was, for example, 30 years ago or 50 years ago. And I would like not to end, before I close, there's been many waves of trying many things across in our activism. It was the human rights approach, the expression, the artistic expression, the changing of law, policy making. But what we become aware more and more is that the lack of power and access to power make it almost impossible to impact the daily life of our people. So that's where it's theme of reflection for our future, and see what are the ways to achieve power. And I don't mean only political power, it's like become part of the structures of power, but also political power means mobilization of our people and connection with our people. I would like to end maybe before if someone has any questions for me, but I just want to say that during my 30 years of activism, I've started my activism in very violent and conflictual situations where houses of Roma were burned out of hate and racism. And I just wanted to say to everybody is that when racist and extreme right hate manifests, it doesn't think about if we are travelers, Roma, Gypsies, or Sinti. They don't think about it. They don't differentiate that we are belonging to different groups. The hate, it's targeted against all of us. So I just wanted to close with this and to make us aware that anti-Gypsies does not differentiate among other Roma groups. So thank you. If you, Jan, any, maybe I finished earlier than I was supposed to finish.
Thank you very, very much, Nicoleta, for your important closing words. And thank you to all the panelists today, and also to the viewers. And I hope you enjoyed the webinar. And more than that, I wish everybody a really happy and political Roma Day. And if you wish to know more about the new Romani Studies department at Södertörn University, please visit our homepage. And don't forget to watch the webinars tomorrow by the CEU and the webinar the day after tomorrow by Harvard University in this important, dedicated to the important anniversary of the World Roma Congress 1971 in London. Thank you very much for today.